Hello, this is English Time with AIOS. My name's Alex Linville. I'm the director of the American Institute of Studies. And today we're going to be looking at business nouns. Words you need to know in order to participate in business. Some of the words are economic, some are accounting, and some are finance, the major areas of business. All the words today are nouns. A later lesson will talk about the verbs we use in business. Now, for all the words behind me, I will provide you the English. Then I will describe the word and how business people would use it in normal conversation. Also, some examples and extra information. Usually for a lesson like this, people would provide the Thai language next to the English. But I don't want to do that for two reasons. Number one, when you put English and Thai together, it mixes up your thinking. It doesn't help you think smoothly with English. You're always having to translate in your head. It's very unnatural. Secondly, English and Thai are languages that come from two sides of the world. They are very different. Often the translations don't match perfectly, so it's really better to learn an English word without thinking about it in Thai, because they're just so different. So let's begin with the economic words. Let's talk about inflation. Inflation is when prices increase. Now, too much inflation is very bad because prices rise very quickly and people are no longer able to buy things. Their money loses value. Now, a little bit of inflation is natural, maybe 1 or 2% a year. But anything more than 5%, 10% is considered very dangerous. And over 20% or 30% we call hyperinflation. And your economy, a country's economy, is soon going to crash if they have inflation at that level. So again, inflation is when prices are increasing and the value of your money is going down. Unemployment is when people don't have a job. Now, I'm sure you have heard this word before, unemployment, but a lot of people have no idea what it really means. Who is unemployed? Are children unemployed? Are old people unemployed? Technically, yes. But for a statistic, and when countries talk about their unemployment rate, they do not consider people under 16 or over 65 to be unemployed. They're either too young or too old. Also, you have to be actually wanting a job. You have to be searching for it to be considered unemployed. If you don't want to work, you are not included in that statistic or percentage. In the United States right now, the unemployment rate is 7.9%. So this is how many people who want a job cannot find it. And they've been looking for at least 3 months. That's also part of the definition. Now in Thailand, the unemployment rate is less than 1%. Now this is really impressive. In America, 7.9% is a little high. Of course, we had a really bad economic fall 4 years ago. So it was actually much higher than this and is slowly coming down. Thailand has always had, at least for the last 20 years or so, very low unemployment. And even other countries in ASEAN, like Vietnam or Burma or Cambodia, their unemployment rate is 3, 4, 5%, much higher than Thailand. Thailand does a very nice job of making sure everybody who wants a job can get a job. Now, the next word, investment, this is about putting money in an investment to get money back. The investment is the vehicle, like a car, that carries you someplace so you can get extra money. Common investments are gold, oil, stock, bonds, buying a house, buying land. Now, you might consider a bank account an investment, but it's really not. A bank account, you get such a low increase on your money, such a small percentage, that we don't really consider that investing. It has to be something with a little bit of risk, a little danger, that will give you a larger amount of money. And countries want investment. Thailand right now is very interested in people investing in the SET, the Stock Exchange of Thailand, buying land here, building factories, bringing more companies here. They want higher investment because that means more jobs and a better return of money. So the next word is interest rate. You see here I have an S. Sometimes it's plural, sometimes it's singular. When it's singular, we mean one interest rate, the one that the government, the national bank, sets for a country. In the United States, the interest rate is less than 1%. This is very unusual. Normally, it's about 6.5%. But because the economy had such a big fall, the government wants people to borrow money. They want banks to give money, to have more loans. So it brings more activity and gets more action for the economy. Some people say it's working, some people say it's not. But this interest rate that the national bank sets decides at what rate you're going to borrow money for a loan or a mortgage for a house. Now in Thailand, your rate right now is 2.75%. Now this is also pretty low, much lower than the United States normally is. But it's of course higher right now than the US. So if you want to buy a house or borrow money to buy a car, it will be more expensive right now in Thailand than in the United States. Now when we talk about interest rates, plural, we're talking about all the rates of the bank, the rates of the national government, the rates of mortgages, loans, all the different rates that different companies, banks, and businesses give their customers. The next words are import and export. Now this is very popular in Thailand because there are many products that are exported from here. That's good. Export means exit. It's easy to remember because of the EX. Makes you think of exit. When your country exports many products, it means your economy is growing. When you import too much, it means that your country doesn't make anything anymore. And what you do make, people don't really want. So to import too much is bad. To export a lot is very good. The next word is outsourcing. This is the idea of jobs going to other countries. This has been major news in the United States for the last 20 years because of jobs going to Mexico and jobs coming to Asia and jobs going all over the world. Right now, many products are made outside of the United States by American companies. Apple makes its products in China. Many car companies make their products in Mexico. They are no longer using American workers to make American products. This is called outsourcing, sending production to another country. Some people think it's good, some people think it's bad. There's a lot of debate right now, a lot of fighting about this idea. So these were all nouns about the economy. So let's start to look at nouns about a company, more specific. The first one is downsizing. Now this is the idea of people being fired. Downsizing is a polite way of saying people have to leave their job. the company no longer wants them. Now, of course, there's many reasons a company will downsize. Maybe they ran out of money. Maybe they don't need as many workers anymore. Maybe they have outsourced and the workers in America are no longer needed. So they get fired. They get downsized. Again, downsizing. A similar word is layoffs. Again, people being fired. Layoffs typically is used when a company is running out of money. They can no longer pay all their workers, so they have to lay them off. They have layoffs. The next word is turnover. Also about employment. Turnover is how often you have new employees. So in Thailand, at English schools, where you have Westerners teaching, you often have high turnover. You'll have Westerners come, then they'll go. They'll come to Thailand and teach, then they'll go back home. These schools have very high turnover. Many employees coming and going. So there are many workers at the company at any one time. The next two words are very different, but they're often linked together. The first is mergers, and then acquisitions. Mergers is the idea of two companies, often about the same size, linking together. Just recently, Central, the department store here in Thailand, and OfficeMate, the major stationery store here in Thailand, have merged together. They are now going to be one company. And this is very friendly. Mergers means that everybody's happy. Usually the CEOs come together. Sometimes the new company has two CEOs. Sometimes there's one CEO and the other just below. It all depends on the situation. Sometimes they keep all the workers. Sometimes they fire some because the two companies come together. There might be too many workers and they have to get rid of some. They have downsizing. Acquisitions, on the other hand, often are not friendly. This is the idea of one company buying another company. Often the other company doesn't want to be bought, but sometimes, of course, they do. Just recently, Thai Beverage Group, the maker of Chang beer, just bought a major food and drink company in Singapore called F&N. Now, some people wanted Thai Beverage to buy F&N, and some people didn't. It was an acquisition. They grabbed the company. The next word is market share. Now, this is the idea of how much of a market a company has. So let's draw a circle. This circle is all the sunglass sales in Thailand. So this part of the circle belongs to Ray-Ban. Ray-Ban, of course, makes sunglasses. They own a small part of the market share. That's how much? Let's say 20%. 20% of all sunglasses in Thailand belong to Ray-Ban. Now, that's not true. This is just an example. But we call this market share. How much a company owns of the market. And of course, it can be any product. Rice, computers, cars, airplane service, anything, hotels. Market share is very different from the share price. They both have the word share, but they use them differently. In this case, the share means how much of the market. In this case, it means stock. Now, the idea of stock is ownership in a company, what you own. So the share price is what it costs to buy part of a company. Say Apple, the price of Apple is very high. It's over $400 to buy one share of the company. Some companies are higher than that, and some are lower. In fact, most are much lower than that. Share prices tend to be under $100. If you want to buy Tesco in Britain, it will cost you less than $100 for one share. Also, if you want to buy CM Commercial Bank, it will cost you less than $100 for a share, probably 100 baht. Let's move on to the next word, productivity. People use this word often with the economy to mean how much activity workers do, how hard they work. But with a company, productivity means how well they use their resources. So how much supply does it take to make this product? But let's focus on the idea of productivity with the economy. The best way to measure this is how much money a worker makes on average per year. So an American worker makes about $49,000 a year. That's their productivity, how much they can make in 1 year. A Thai worker, still using US dollars, makes about $5,000 a year. A little bit less. But this is very good for the region. 5,000 in ASEAN is a very good productivity number. Say China, their workers only make about 5,500 on average every year. Now, this number, like I said, for Thailand is very good. A country like Vietnam, their workers make less. This number is 3.5 times larger than for Vietnamese workers. Now, you might think America, oh, this number is very big, but it's not the biggest in the world. There's many countries, Norway, Qatar, Switzerland, Denmark, Canada, Australia, that have higher productivity than the United States. But this is a very good number. In Thailand, over time, their number will increase as well. You'll have higher productivity. So for the last two, these are both accounting terms. We have sales and revenue, meaning the same thing, and expenditures and expenses. Sales and revenue means how much money comes into a business. If you sell apples, all the money you make from apples would be your revenue or your sales. Now, in order to find out if you're making any money, you have to subtract your expenses and expenditures. What do you have to pay your employees? What do you pay for rent? What does your electricity cost? What did the apple cost you to buy? If you sell an apple for 100 baht, but it cost you 50 baht to buy it, you have to think about this with your accounting. So if you make 3,000 baht a day, but it costs you 1,000 baht to buy the apples, then you would only make 2,000 baht. Then you still have to subtract your rent, your employees, if you have any insurance, what it costs you for water and electricity. After you subtract everything, you have a new word. I'm going to write it up here in this corner. P-R-O-F-I-T. You have your profit. This is revenue minus expenditures, or sales minus expenses. Again, these words mean the same that are next to each other. And they always lead to profit when you subtract them. Okay? So, these are some basic accounting, economic, and business words. If you look in the AIOS handbook, The American Way, there's lessons in there that give more words, dialogues, and more examples about business vocabulary. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Please go research more about the economy, about the world, and how things are growing. It will serve you very well if you ever want to work in business. Again, my name's Alex Linville. I'm the director of the American Institute of Studies, and this has been English Time with AIOS.